type in swimming. Good morning and welcome to the CISA Education Hub Live. I've got Lizandre with me. Welcome, Lizandre.
Thank you, Justin.
We talk sport, health and fitness every second week, and we try to bring you topics that are informative, interesting and sometimes controversial. Lizandre, I know you've got an international swimming squad with you this week.
Yep.
So thanks for making the time to come and chat to us.
Thank you so much.
We have chatted previously about overtraining, but unfortunately that webinar was deleted. So we're here discussing overtraining in swimmers again, for those of you who missed it. And we'll also save this onto our Facebook page. So Lizandre, swimming is a massive issue amongst, overtraining is a massive issue amongst swimmers. What is overtraining?
Yeah, I think overtraining is a little bit more to what most people think. I think most people generally think it's just 1 or 2 really hard sessions and then your swimmer is overtrained. But overtraining is actually, there's a whole bunch of phases involved into basically creating an overtrained swimmer. So we'll look at training overload first. So the first thing that happens is if you do a hard session, in swimming, you get what we call acute fatigue, so the swimmer is going to be tired straight after, but later that day they might be able to do another session, they'll recover and be ready to go, or the next morning. The next phase of hard sessions is what we call functional overreaching. So you now do maybe 1 or 2 really hard sessions. It takes the swimmer maybe a day, day and a half, or 2 days to recover, but after that they bounce back and they produce some good results or good sets again in the pool. And then after functional overtraining, we get non-functional overtraining. So that's really where you've created this, like 3-4 hard sessions, a week of hard sessions, maybe 2 weeks in a row. And now your swimmer is just not bouncing back to giving you good sets, giving you good times, and basically creating like a tired state for a long period. So we're looking at, a few weeks in a row, the swimmer is just rocking up at training and not seeming like they're in it. They're struggling to get going, they're hanging on pool deck a little bit longer. And if you have that for extended period of time, we're looking at 2 or 3 months, you then create what we call overtraining syndrome, and that is burnout. Okay. So it's quite a big process to get there, but it's for you as a coach to try and find that balance between functional overreaching, so giving them hard stuff that they can bounce back, versus non-functional overreaching, where they're actually just not getting themselves back again.
Yeah. And Lizandre, I know you deal with a lot of youth swimmers, and you've been finding quite high levels of non-functional overreaching in these young swimmers. And when you and I have discussed it, we a lot of people don't understand all of the issues related with growth and development.
Yep.
What are some of those key issues we need to understand?
Well, I think it's important for a coach to realize where their swimmer are, what age they're at, how much they can actually push that swimmer. So there's a huge difference between your 11-year-old and your 16-year-old.
Yeah.
And I think what happens often is all of those swimmers end up swimming in the same session, and they all just kind of come along and they just swim harder and harder. And if you end up giving more kilometers or more harder sets, in your head as a coach you feel, yeah, they're doing great. Yes. They're pushing much more, and that ends up actually into non-functional overreaching. And then after 6-7 months, the swimmer that was really great in Jan gets to June, and they just keep on getting stuck swimming the same time because they're just tired.
Yes. And we've got we know that we've got our early developers and our late developers.
Yeah.
And we've also got the relative age effect. And the relative age effect is that those swimmers that are older, so who are born at specific times in the year, they're swimming in the same class, but they're a year older. How is that affecting training?
Yeah, I think not necessarily affecting training as much as racing in our country, or racing, certain specific galas of the year. So for us in South Africa, the first 4 months of the year is really important in terms of racing. You've got championships, you've got junior nationals. So if you that child that have your birthday in Feb, swimming championships in March, and you basically 12 years in 1 month competing against another child that's 12 years and 9 months, it's almost a year different. And I think that's a big a big thing just to see as a coach, like have a look at where the swimmer is. As a parent, that's really important, to look where your child is and not really forcing them to create or get certain achievements, and look at where they age on. Oh, you're actually you're a year behind, or just watch out, you're a year ahead, but once you reach a certain age, like 16, you swim open, then we're all fighting the same battle. So really just creating that relationship with a child, to explain to them where they are in their swimming career, what they need to look forward, and that fast swimming really only matters once they're a little bit older.
And I think with this whole thing of growth and development, there was an interesting paper which I know you recently reviewed, which basically looked at when males and females, when they peak in specific events. Maybe tell us a bit about that.
So that was really interesting, just to see how it actually changes as you get older and as you get stronger and as your body changes, how the events you peak in actually change as well. And that's maybe quite a deep concept to go in, but to give a bit of background on it is just to be really careful as a coach to decide that your 12-year-old is only a breaststroker because they may be good at breaststroke at the age 12, but as a female turning 14, your body changed, and then maybe your body is just not so ideal for breaststroke anymore, and if you never trained another stroke, you're actually now losing that swimmer that was so focused on just swimming breaststroke because at that age they were good, but turning 14, breaststroke didn't work so well. So it's really just keeping the doors open for the younger swimmer, making them swim all the strokes, and realizing as they get stronger and develop more physically, they can swim certain events a little bit better. For example, your 200 butterflies is a big example where sometimes they swim it well as a youngster because they're so light, and then their body changes and they get a little bit heavier and they actually need a whole lot more power, which they don't have at 14, and then they struggle a bit, but then at 16 they can come back and swim that race quite hard once they've created a bit of muscle mass and they're a bit stronger in the pool again.
So that swimmer might have challenges. Number one, they might be a late developer. The good news is that now we can measure those, who the early, on time and late developers are, and I know you do those measurements on swimmers, and so we might have a late developer who's really training hard but not getting the results. And suddenly the only thing that often we think we can do is increase the training volume.
I think that's probably what I enjoy most in swimmers, is late developers. They kind of feel like they're left behind all the time and they're just chasing the backside the whole time. They're always just ending up in the semi-finals, they're never in the finals, and there's always these big kids standing around them that's like 20 centimeters taller than them. But I really like that moment when that late developer just kind of like wakes up and just suddenly grows 10 centimeters. And then, excuse me, your early developer kind of like look to the side and go, what happened? And I think in swimming, I honestly do enjoy late developers a whole lot more, because it just comes at the right time. It comes a little bit later. They've settled into the sport a little bit more, and they really start growing into what they want to achieve when they reach 15, 16, compared to your early developer that reaches a real high state already at 11 and 12.
And I think, just to back up what you're saying, I see some of the research in England and in Germany is showing in the Olympic sports that the late developers are outperforming the early developers. So the early developers win all the championships at primary school level, but in high school and actually more after school, it's your late developers that then start winning the events.
Yes, coming through.
So, I think that this is a message that coaches and parents need to understand.
Oh, and definitely maybe on that as well, with your early and late developers, you also get your kids that do a few sports as young kids. So you're looking at your kids doing 2 or 3 sports. And, research also has said that the kids that did more sports under the age of 14, 15 actually ended up being better in a specific sport when they got older, versus the kids that at the age of 11, 12 only did one activity. So to really, again, as a coach and a parent, to give your kids the opportunity to do more than one thing when they're still young. It develops them, it's great for them, gives them good social interaction, and not just to force them to do one thing the whole time.
And I mean, just on that, we see in South Africa, we see a high level of burnout in our female swimmers. And why do you think, if you look at South Africa, we're producing a number of good male swimmers, and we've got some female, but the numbers are completely disproportionate. Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think female swimming is a massive topic in our country, and I think everyone is driving and really working hard to get the females to get something. I think we really miss having, just Penny Hayneses around all the time. But I think a big issue there is females and girls specifically. If we look at your 10, 11-year-olds, they're really driven. Girls want to tick boxes, they want to train hard, they want to impress the coach. So I think a lot of time what happened is we just push these girls a little bit too early. So they get to 10, 11, they may be like developing a little bit earlier than boys generally. So they're a little bit taller, they're a little bit bigger. And then we kind of see that as an opportunity. So you take that on and just really make them work so hard. And then they reach like 14, 15 and they get, going through puberty and their body changes and they're now fighting battles they haven't fought before. They're getting heavier. They struggle to swim certain events. And then by 15, they're almost like giving up because they've now been getting stuck swimming the same times for a year or 2 years. But they really haven't had anyone to tell them this is what's going to happen. And you will have to almost fight that battle for, every girl's maybe a little bit different, but for a year or maybe even for 2 years. And then once you go through that, you can really get comfortable in your new body and put the hard yards in and then make it to the top.
And what I hear you also saying is it's so important to know your swimmer.
Yeah.
And knowing your swimmer is obviously here at the Sports Science Institute, we love measuring things.
Yeah.
But it's more than just measuring, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a relationship you have to have with your swimmer, and if you measure things, you can also really adjust your training. So if you just kind of like assume all your swimmers are feeling great when you rock up at pool deck with a training program, this big set that you prepared, and you just go, well, they're on holiday, so they must be feeling great, and you literally just try and like work them really hard, you might work 90% of your squad really hard that's actually tired.
Yes.
So, I mean, we have a few systems we try and we do here, which we find works really well. For the seniors, what we have, it's almost like an app. So they have a little link and they tick on it and they have to fill in a little questionnaire every morning and then also after every training session. And that really helps me then when I go and look at that data to go, swimmer X has been tired, they haven't been sleeping well, they look like they're stressed, they may be writing exams. And then instead of making swimmer X go first in the lane the whole time because it is the fastest swimmer, I'll go, why don't you swim, at the back today, show me some good strokes. I want to see you swimming the strokes perfect, I want good turns. And then you completely take their head off swimming fast, but you just take them to focus on something else. So that's kind of what we use quite often for our elite swimmers. We give them the app, they need to fill in all this information, and it makes them more aware of how they actually feel as well. As a 16-year-old, you need to know, I'm feeling good today, or, coach, I'm not feeling so great. If you can maybe give me a little bit of grace in some of the sets, it will be great.
Yeah, so you're teaching them to know their own bodies.
Yeah.
And obviously, as you said, you've got an online system that you guys use.
Yeah.
And you look at signs and symptoms. In that online, you look at signs and symptoms. Give us an example of one of those things you would measure.
Yeah, so in the morning when they wake up, they generally answer just a few questions on how did they sleep. So that's a big thing for us. We want to know they had like an 8 out of 10 sleep, which will be they had great sleep. They fell asleep and didn't wake up 10 times during the night, or they might be writing exams. So they studied till 3 in the morning and then woke up again at 6 trying to get good marks, and then they might say, well, I had a 3 out of 10. So that's an important thing for us. Fatigue is another question. Just do you feel tired in general? Mood is another one, do you feel, it will basically just, are you feeling stressed and horrible, or are you feeling like a nice person today? So I think that it makes them think about who they are and how they feel. And it gives us a nice idea when again, like I said, when they rock up and pool deck, I know how to talk to that swimmer that day. They're not feeling so great, give them a bit of space. Don't irritate them with a whole bunch of questions. Just let them to get through the set and keep them calm and comfortable.
Yeah, and I think, Lizandre, you being a top athlete yourself and a biokineticist and a swimming coach, I think you've really got a wonderful way in which you deal with the swimmers. And it's great to have you here at the Sports Science Institute. I know that we've been working together over the past 6 months to develop an online course for parents and coaches.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what's in that course.
Yeah, I think the idea with this is just really to get some information out there. I think what I've really realized is a lot going on in terms of swim coaching. Is it's the coach there, it's the kids there, it's orders getting given, and everyone just do whatever the coach says. But I think it's also important for the parents and even some swimmers to really know why they do things. So one thing I always tell my swimmers, if they want to ask me why I give them a certain set, they are allowed to do that. And if I can't give them an answer, it means I'm just giving them something to do because I can't think of anything better. And I think this whole course gives you just a whole lot of background on why you would do certain things in the pool, how your body changed in terms of growth and development, a little bit on the female swimmer, what to expect with this female swimmer when they go through changes. We're looking at periodization, writing programs, why it's so important. And then we just focus also on the parent and the age group swimmer.
Yeah.
Like for you as a parent, how do you deal with this 11-year-old swimmer that in their head is the next Olympian, and how do you just have conversation with your swimmer and support them and make sure they get to tick off their dreams.
Yeah. Lizandra has also put assessments, land-based and pool-based in there. And then we've also put a novel tool for you, and that is how to measure how to predict the height of your swimmers and also their maturation status. So there's an explanation on how to use it, and then also an Excel that you can use with your own swimmers. So go and have a look. That's on cisaed.com. Lizandra, I'm going to let you go back and do some work. So thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you, Justin.